So, True Justice by Sheila Calloway tells a story about experiences in the courtroom and the justice system and how it's quite unfair, especially with a judge called Judge Johns. He's very unfair, he's strict and rigorous, and he's very, these are my rules. If you don't abide by my rules, you don't even have a chance in court and you're immediately guilty. Which, no matter what lens you look through, that's clearly not okay. Eventually she transfers to a new judge. This judge is called Judge Thomas Shriver, and he's very all about fairness, compassion, and grace. He's very, well, if you had a tough time, I'll give you grace and I'm going to let you move on with your life, and I just want to see you thrive and turn into a good person. And reflecting on like this story, I really relate to it too as well. I'm not necessarily like a bad kid, but I have said and done things that I got in trouble for, and the way I was treated because of it was not good at all. Because I said one bad thing and it made me a bad person apparently. But at the end of the day, it's injustice at places like my school, and I said something that obviously wasn't appropriate, and like the way I was treated just like wasn't the greatest, but what I said wasn't necessarily untrue. And her story may change a lot of listeners' opinions on the judicial system and how they really treat people, because people in power think that they can treat others poorly because of it. And she really casts like a first person initiative in her story, because she was just saying how the DAs were just pretty much cackling at the fact that she was fighting for a 19-year-old's justice not to have a felony charge wherein it could affect his future so immensely, like not having good housing, being, it's just a whole thing that the judges were just, and the DAs were just being really, really unfair and just nasty towards Sheila. What makes the narrative very significant is how it's not necessarily neutral. Both are acts of justice and injustice depending on how they're done. Calloway shows that when stories are told simply as records, they flatten people in their ego. But when we look at it with attention and detail and grace and kindness, listening for the voice behind the name and the character of the person, noticing the tremor and the child's plea of a felony charge, all because he made a dumb mistake. Every day, we participate in justice, but with forgiveness, we open ourselves to transformation and change within not just ourselves, but changing other people to also see how fairness is so important to a society. As a reader, it makes me visualize how my thesis isn't just about what the story is about, but the lesson that is taught by the story. Calloway's story invites me to consider how I read the world and how I write the world and how it matters. In the end, the story has a quiet, steady arc in rigid courtroom culture, moving through the moment of recognizing a different kind of judge and different kind of possibility, ending with the author's resolve and sense of mission. Calloway describes on how the court that Thomas Strives held was a very fair and forgiving court, and eventually her herself became the juvenile judge, showing that pursuing justice and grace is also inspired by justice and grace. In my own thought, this means I must begin with abstractions, but with the lived moment and how I lived through that conflict and overcame it, and then show my insight on how it made me learn. Calloway's essay demonstrates how individual courtroom experiences ripple out universal questions about fairness, second chances, and human change and connection. Yeah, I actually wrote a little script-ish to go off of, roughly. So thank you so much.